Merriest to meet. My name is Kyrja, and this story is called Rupert's Longest Night. This story is from our book called Rupert's Tales, The Wheel of the Year, Samhain, Yule, Imbolc, and Ostara. And this is how it goes. Rupert the rabbit raised a paw to stifle a great big yawn, knowing there were still hours and hours left until the dawn. It was hard to do this, staying awake all through the night, but he was determined to wait for the new day's first light. For hours and hours he had been hiding by a tree, watching and listening, being as quiet as could be. He'd listened and he'd learned that Winter Solstice, or Yule, was this Sabbath's name, and to celebrate the return of the light was why everyone came. He'd learned that true winter would begin the very next day, and for these people tomorrow would be their New Year's Day. Rupert had visited these people many times over the past year, and had come to understand that from them he had little to fear. Still, there were times when he wished he had the power of human speech, for no matter how much he learned, he knew they had much more they could teach. When he'd made his way earlier to this special place, in a thick grove of trees that was a kind of round space, he had looked for the young ones, all the girls and the boys. It hadn't been hard to find them with all of their noise. The children had their own shelter, a strange thing they called a tent, close enough to the grown-ups they could see where the children went. For hours the girls and boys had played and danced and raised their voices in song, but they were sitting quietly now, in shadows that had grown dark and long. Around a small fire they had gathered all together, trying their best to keep warm in the cold frosty weather. One boy said, "I wish we could make this fire really, really big." Another agreed, saying, "Hey, we could find some branches and twigs." "Oh no," said a girl who seemed quieter than all of the rest. "I'd like it too, but when it comes to fire, our parents know best." "But without a fire, how will the sun know to come back to us again?" "Tell me that," said a girl all dressed in blue. "When will it come back at all? And when?" "Stacy, your mother's the high priestess," said Bob, a boy with a red hat. "Shouldn't you know about the seasons, the sun, the moon, and all of that?" Here we go again, thought Rupert, looking around and rolling his eyes. Next would come all the questions about the whens, the whos, and the whys. If you will all be quiet and listen to what I have to say, then I'll tell you what I know about this night and the coming day. But you must remember that, like you, I'm still just a kid. I don't know everything or what everybody did. Because I'm older than you doesn't mean I'm a crone and very wise. Sometimes you have to figure out things with your own heart and mind and eyes. In fact, some of you might be a little surprised to find out that is true. Some say that Samhain is both the end of the year and the beginning too. "But what about the sun coming back?" the boy with the red hat wanted to know. "And what about winter and the light? And oh, can you tell us when it will snow?" Long ago, before we learned about planets, the sun, and the changing of the weather, on winter solstice, people would try to guide the sun by gathering all together. They would pile a lot of wood and light big fires to help make the sun strong. They would build their fires very hot and high, and then they'd sing a lot of songs. That's why we have so many lights hung on our holiday trees today, as a reminder to the sun that we want him to come back our way. My dad says that starting tomorrow we'll have more hours of daylight. "But that's when winter starts," said the girl in blue, "so I'm not sure he's right." "Oh, he's right," said Stacy, "and I know that seems pretty strange, but that's exactly how the wheel of the year is arranged. Just when it seems that the weather is getting awfully cold and that winter is just about to really take hold, right then is when we always get a special reminder from above that God and Goddess fill our world with laughter, hope, and plenty of love." A boy with black gloves and a confused look on his face raised his hand in the air. "Go ahead, Nicholas," Stacy said, nodding. "Ask your question if you dare." "So even though we have long dark nights and cold short days, solstice reminds us warmer weather is on the way?" "Yes," Stacy said with a smile on her face, "you have it exactly right. But we still have some celebrating to do on this, the year's longest night. I've already told you about the lights we hang on the tree. What other decorations do we use? Can anyone tell me?" Rupert smiled to himself, leaning closer and stretching out one long ear. He was eager to learn more about this Sabbath and the wheel of the year. "The bright star," one boy called out, "all the way at the very top of the tree." "Mistletoe," said Emily with the green scarf, "where my daddy kisses me." "The garland," and "Yule log," and "remember the wreath too." These were all things that to Rupert were quite strange and new. "We'll start with a star," said Stacy, "way at the top of the tree. Do any of you know what it is? Can anyone tell me?" Nicholas raised his hand. Isn't it the pentacle all shiny and bright? Stacy nodded. It's for the 4 elements along with spirit, that's right. The green and red mistletoe that is used today to steal a Yuletide kiss is a sacred plant used to make a promise that you don't want to go amiss. And the garland, said the girl in blue. We use it to wrap around and round the tree. Besides being all pretty and sparkly, what does it mean for you and me? That decoration is for the goddess and the cycle that never ends. From mother to wife to widow she goes, and then back to mother again. Doesn't the Yule log come from the Druids in their worship of the trees? It's supposed to bring good luck, said Bob. That's what my grandmother told me. We have a piece of last year's Yule log in our own fire right here. My mother brought it to give us all good luck in the coming year. And what about the pretty wreath that was on the altar earlier today? Can you tell us about that one too? Asked Nicholas. What do you have to say? The green branches in a circle come from the goddess, if I remember right, with the red berries, pine cones, and the holly from the god on this longest night. We put them together to celebrate balance and bring us luck that is good. The new year should bring us all many blessings, said Stacy. Oh yes, it should. There are other symbols we use to decorate and bring in the new year. Tinsel and icicles remind us of the spring rains that will soon be here. We use bright bells of gold or silver to clear and clean the air, to call friendly spirits if there are any listening out there. Rupert was amazed to hear the children speak of all these wonderful things, and delighted by the glitter reminding him of sparkly fairy wings. But one thing you must all remember, no matter what else we do, these decorations aren't really what should mean the most to you. We're all safe and warm tonight, together by our toasty fire here. Still, we need to remember more than songs, symbols, and holiday cheer. The winter solstice is the longest night throughout the whole long year, reminding us that it is the warmth of the sun that we all hold dear. We stay awake all night, even though it's really hard to do, to thank the god and goddess and all they give to me and you. But what if I can't stay awake? Asked the girl in blue. I really need to know. Yes, agreed Emily. Then will the sun stay away, and so will all the snow? Don't worry, said Stacy. I can tell you the wheel of the year will still turn. It really doesn't even matter if the Yule log refuses to burn. To remember the Lord and the Lady is the most important thing tonight, as we are gathered here and wait together for the new year's first touch of light. Rupert was happy to hear that falling asleep wasn't really something to dread, because he'd already seen one of the children crawl off to his own bed. Perhaps we should sing a song to help us stay awake. By the time we're done, Stacy said, maybe dawn will break. And so the children did sing, just a verse or two, not for very long, and when it was done, all but one had fallen asleep during the song. My mother said you might come, said Stacy, and that I should watch for you. Rupert was happy the girl had seen him, and she knew what to do, for even though the sun was finally coming back as well as longer days, his eyes were heavy, his head was nodding, and he was beginning to sway. The girl gathered him up in her arms and held him close to her, humming a quiet tune while running her fingers through his fur. As his eyes were closing, he remembered all he'd learned about the coming light, and decided that winter solstice or Yule was a very magical night. Yes, the wheel of the year was turning, and a warmer sun was on his way. In the girl's arm, Rupert felt happy, and that's how he was going to stay. And that's the end. Thanks for being a friend of Rupert.